Thank you. I would like to call the December 10th Nashua Board of Education meeting to order. It is 7:04. Could the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Mosher?
Here. Here.
Okay.
Mrs. Oden?
Here.
Mr. Kaufman? Ms. Raymond?
Here.
Ms. Timmons?
Here.
Ms. Hohensie?
Here.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes, I'm here.
Mr. Guarino is here. Ms. Porter?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. I'm going to ask the clerk to read the prayer, and could Haley lead us in the pledge? And before we do this, I'd like to stand so we can have a moment of silence for Marilyn Matusa, a longtime Fairgrounds middle school teacher who passed away recently. Thank you.
Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty of managing the educational institutions of our beloved city. In our common endeavors, may we find a spirit of unity and understanding which will enable us to face our multiple problems with an objective mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will be for the betterment and greater happiness of all of our fellow citizens. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam President, I forgot to add Ms. Sweeney and Ms. Gillis. Mr. Gillis are present also. And we also have joining us Dr. Mosley, Dr. McKinney, Ms. Fitzpatrick, Mr. Donovan, and Ms. O'Gara. And also, Mr. Mosher is joining us by phone. Are you by yourself, Mr. Mosher?
Yeah.
And also, Ms. Van Twyver is also joining us by phone. Are you by yourself, Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Okay. The first item is a recognition of our Student Board of Ed representatives, Haley Sweeney and Patrick Gillis, for their year of service to us. Dr. Mosley, did you want to speak to that?
First of all, it's been, it's hard to say goodbye, but at the same time, with new beginnings, there are, new opportunities. So I just would like to say a couple things. I believe this is, my first journey with these two individuals in terms of a year. And it's just amazing how the year has progressed, and you're going to be leaving us. I think I just have a couple of brief words. I'll start with Haley South High, and I thought and believe that Haley is amazing. She is ambitious, thoughtful, and worldly. I really believe that both of you epitomize the Nashua Public Schools in our community. Time and time again, both of you are always out there volunteering and being part of our community. I'd like to just focus on Haley, and then I'll go to you, Patrick. Haley has served as the board rep for Nashua High School South on the Nashua Board of Education. She has been active and offers board members, myself, and my leadership team very, very helpful suggestions and commentary to improve the Nashua Public Schools for our kids. Believe it or not, the board meetings can be contentious at times, and yet Haley has always handled this in a respectful and mature way, and has always managed to take the high road and has never gotten into it. I know it's been difficult for both of you, but I want to say thank you for being a model, and thank you for just doing everything you've done so far. I've had an opportunity to talk to Haley informally and out in the community, whether she's holding a sign or you don't work at Bob's anymore. You work at somewhere. Where do you work now?
Sierra Trading Post. I saw you there the other day.
I was looking for a Christmas sweater and I couldn't find one. And I'm not paying $80 for the one in the front. Go ahead. All right. So, I was there. Yeah. All right.
See you.
Okay. So, again, it speaks volumes to how involved our kids are. Can you imagine ranked 20th in the class, correct? Ish? Okay. All right. But still, can you imagine doing all of this, going home, doing your homework, maintaining a class rank of 20th, working full-time, and still being able to be involved? You're also involved in the Strategic Planning Steering Committee. I don't know where life will take you, but I know you have the tools to be what you want to be, and I thank you for everything you've done so far here at the Board of Education. I don't like to say goodbye because saying goodbye means like you're not going to see the person, so I'll just say I'll just see you later, and that just always keeps the door open. Is that fair enough? All right. Do we have something for that? Oh. I'd like to present a gift on the behalf of the board that was given to you. I thought I was going to speak and then someone would walk over. See this, like I'm looking at you, like to serve with love, you say something and then Lulu walks over and gives the gift. All right. Patrick, thank you. Patrick, listen, I have nothing but great admiration for the work you've done here at the board. You've, again, contributed to the board in terms of being thoughtful and keeping us focused on what's important. There was a couple of board meetings where you've made some poignant points in terms of keeping the conversation focused on students, focused on what teachers need, and focused on what the district needs. Believe it or not, I see Patrick. Where do I see you, Patrick? In the community, where do I go all the time?
Oh, Market Basket, yeah.
Right, I see Patrick at Market Basket. I'm very, so again, I only go to the one, exit 8, right? Exit 8, yeah.
Chick-fil-A.
Okay. What's that?
Yeah, Chick-fil-A, Somerset Plaza.
You're right. That's the one I go to. But can you imagine, again, Patrick, number 6 in the class, and is the president of his class, and also part of the strategic steering committee. He also works and is a part of the mayor's youth.
Yeah, Mayor City Youth Council.
Mayor City Youth Council. Mind you, Pat, I'm going at the top of my head, so you know that. But it's, again, my pleasure to say that imagine being at this board, going home, doing your homework, getting up, maintaining the level of engagement in school and being a part and volunteering. Patrick, my understanding, I'm going at the top of my memory, you're interested in going to Stanford, is that correct?
No, that's a bit of a stretch, but that's probably one of them.
See, I disagree.
But I'm applying.
I disagree with that stretch. If you don't stretch, you don't know where you belong. So the fact that you're applied and the fact that you're a strong student, I think any university would be lucky to have you. Wesleyan for you too, correct? Is it Wesleyan? Okay, all right. So I wrote those letter of recommendation. That's why I know the schools are interested in. But anyways, I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'll see you both later. Please don't be strangers. I know that whoever is your predecessor, they have some big shoes to fill, and thank you for your time.
And you will be hard to replace. Thank you. Let me see, is there anything that needs to be removed from the consent agenda? Mr. Kaufman?
Thank you. There was a communication on November 30th regarding a right-to-know request. This was a response that I made to Dr. Mosley, I ask that that be pulled from the record at this time.
Okay. Do you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Mrs. Oden. I would like to just read my response. I had submitted a right-to-know request, and this is my reply to Dr. Mosley. I asked him to send the materials via email. As you're probably aware, I have not set foot in the district office since the first week of January 2018. I had communicated this to Ms. Kinsella and Mr. Bolton in a previous email when I explained why I did not want to come into the office and sign a document for the New Hampshire Department of Education. Ms. Kinsella accommodated my concerns by bringing the documents for signature to a board meeting. My reasons for not coming into the office are simple. I do not feel safe coming into the district office and fear that I will have a similar fate as Mr. Farrington and be trespassed. Additionally, now that all the unions have declared their animosity toward me, I am not certain, which staff members are not also hostile. Here too, I am concerned about false statements, mischaracterizations, and the inherent hostility that might be projected upon me by a disgruntled union member. I am taken aback by your email, which implies that I owe the district over $50 for the fulfillment of my right-to-know request. If, as you suggest, you're only sending information previously received, it clearly would not take 6.5 hours to aggregate those emails. It's unfortunate that an elected official must resort to filing a right-to-know request to get information needed to perform their duty with due diligence. I believe it was incumbent upon you to notify me in advance of any costs associated with the fulfillment of my request. Additionally, I will state now that the amount requested constitutes a hardship, and I request a waiver of the fee. My perception of the inherent hostility in the district office negatively impacts my ability to perform my duty as an elected official, sincerely. The one comment I would like to add is that when Dr. Mosley responded to this, he never said, gee, Mr. Kaufman, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's clearly not what we intended. Rather, his reply only doubled down. And I just want the public to understand this is the environment. You wonder why sometimes we're contentious. It's because this is the pervasive tone that some of us on the board have endured, certainly for this past year. Thank you, Ms. Soden.
Okay. Ms. Raymond?
Thank you. I'm just looking for some clarification. I guess I don't understand why something would need to be removed from the consent agenda if we've just had a public reading of it.
Do you have
I just
an
don't
explanation?
understand.
I wanted it discussed. There is no public record of the actual text of the emails that we get. The board does not receive the actual text of the emails. We get them as email, but in our board pack and the official agenda that goes out is merely a list of items with subject headings, and I believe the person that sent it. But the actual content is not part of the public record. In other words, if you went to the website after this meeting, all the correspondence received by the board would not be part of the public record, and I wanted this as part of the record. Now, I've asked in the past that the board include as part of the public record the full text of those emails, and the board has failed to act on that. I think we, as a public, the public has a right to know not just who sent an email about a particular subject, they should know the content of those emails as well, and currently the public record doesn't allow for that. The way the board handles the content of the consent agenda, the public doesn't have immediate access to it. Yes, they could file a right to know request to get it, but that just seems like a lot of work for the public they should have full access and understanding about what happened in the 2-week window that the board, between board meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. I will say, Mr. Kaufman, to clarify this, you did not send that request as a board member. You sent that under hxkaufman@protonmail.com, which is not a board request. And if you read 90, I believe it's 93A, Section 4, subsection 4, it states if a computer, photocopying machine, or other device maintained for use by a public body or agency is used by the public body or agency to copy the governmental record requesting, the person requiring the copy may be charged the actual cost of providing the copy, which cost may be collected by the public body or agency. So it is not our responsibility to tell you you would have to pay. You are familiar with the RSA 93A, so you should have read this and understood that you would be responsible for the cost. And furthermore, it's my understanding that you, I saw an email where you were asking a courier to come and pick that up. I don't think our people should be engaged in that.
May I respond to your comment, Mrs. Oden?
Sure,
Thank you.
1 minute. I'll
Thank
give you 1 minute.
So the email that I replied to was the email that Dr. Mosley sent to the entire board. So the email that I replied to was in the public record as placed there by Dr. Mosley. So I had every right to do that as a member of the board since it was in the public record. It was not an email I initiated, I replied. As far as the fee goes, that I understand is in the public record, I still would maintain that you should give an estimate before services are rendered as a courtesy. And as far as the courier is concerned, I did not ask for a special trip of the courier. I left it the day they dropped off the information, this packet, in fact, so there was no added effort on the part of the courier. He was coming to my house anyway. Thank you. And by the way, I still have not yet received confirmation that I requested from Dr. Mosley that he received the return materials. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Are there any communications outside the consent agenda? Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
We have to
Is
vote
there
on
a
the
motion to
removal
accept?
and then to accept, right?
A motion for, what did you say at
I
first?
said we need to vote on the request to remove the item and then vote to accept it, or no?
Point of order, you don't have to vote to have it, he removes it, that's done. We have to vote on the remaining items and then that separate item.
Interesting.
I'm not sure about that, quite honestly.
No, I also disagree, but to move on without any further theatrics, I move to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Roll call?
On the motion to accept the consent agenda, Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mrs. Oden,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Hohensie,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes,
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Porter,
Yes.
motion carries 9-0.
Okay. Are there any communications outside the consent agenda?
Mrs. Oden.
Mr. Kaufman?
Would you entertain a motion to accept what was previously excluded so that it may be included in the public record? So I so move.
Quite frankly, I think that's redundant. I think it's already in the public record from you
But it hasn't been
speaking tonight.
approved by the board as a communication, as received, I believe. It was extracted. I think if we're going to accept it, we should vote on it.
Would the committee like to vote on whether we add that to the consent agenda?
I personally like to move on.
Okay. Is there a motion to move on?
So moved.
I have a motion
No.
on the floor.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
it wasn't seconded, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Mosher, do you want to make that motion?
I made.
I did. I
You
said
just
so
did.
moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call?
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mrs. Oden,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
No.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Hohensie,
No.
Ms. Van Twyver,
no,
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Porter,
Yes.
We have 3 noes and 6 yeses. The motion to move on passes.
Okay, now it's time for the public question comment period, limited to items on this agenda.
Adam Marcoux, 4 Jalorie Lane, President of the Nashua Teachers Union. My first comment is about the agenda item, but I have to address something that was said already in this meeting. To paint a broad picture of disgruntled union workers in this district is unfair and ridiculous. If you have a problem with what the 4 unions did, maybe you should look at your own behavior in these meetings and understand why we have a problem with your performance in this district. We don't allow our kids to act that way. We don't allow our staff to do that. And frankly, the fact that you carry on the way you do is unacceptable. And that's why the union took their action. The 4 unions that represented our city are professionals. They know how to act in public and treat each other with respect and dignity. And that's what we expect from them every day. And that's what you can expect when you walk into central office, Pennachuck, Elm Street, South, North, any other building in this school district. So I take offense to your broad painting of the 4 unions that way. My actual comments are on the Code of Ethics and Code of Conduct. I've spoken to you before about this. This was a piece that was created by the state legislature, gave the Department of Education rulemaking abilities to create this. Now, while I'm in favor of a code of ethics, I was not in favor of a statewide creation of this. I was one of 2 appointments from AFT New Hampshire on there, and our push was for local control, as it is with most everything in this state. I think this would have gone over better with faculty and staff across the state had each district had some guidelines similar to the professional development master plan, teacher evaluations, and been able to create their own with the collaboration of the district, the board, and the respective faculties. With that said, the code of conduct, there's nothing earth-shattering in there. Actually, there's some things cleaned up, but I felt that it was important for me as someone who sat on that committee to express my frustration with the process. I don't see anything alarming in there, but again, there's more buy-in when each district has their own set of rules following a template that is created together. And unfortunately, that's not what happened, but we will work to educate the membership on this new code together with the school district in hopes that it's there, but nothing that we have to focus on because we're doing our jobs the way they're supposed to. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Pat Snow, 7 Pilgrim Road, Windham, New Hampshire. I just want to thank all of you for the work you do every single day. It is the work that needs to be done, and each one of you bring your own passion and agenda, but I am just in awe of the amount of work that you do every single day for our students, our staff, and our community. Nashua is a fabulous school district and one we should all be proud of. And I especially want to thank Mrs. Oden for her presidency, her leadership, her advocacy for children, and for all the educators in Nashua. Thank you, Mrs. Oden. You're the most passionate educator I know, and it's been an honor to work beside you in the classroom, and all these years, you are a leader that I am honored to have known and in this leadership role. So thank you, and I wish you all happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
All right.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Superintendent's comments.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to draw the board members to your packet, and particularly for this document here. We asked all of the principals in the district to list all the events that were going on, kind of to close out the year. And so if you haven't seen it already, all of you and the collective all are invited to any event that's on here. We thought it important to just kind of make a list of events that are going on. They're at various times and places throughout the district, so I encourage you. I always say there's great things going on in the district, there's great things going on, but there is really great things going on, and certainly if you could find some time to stop in and just have a chance to see some events, whether it's reading a book, whether it's, recently it was Bye Bye Birdie, there's some plays coming up. Please get out there and see what our kids and our faculty are doing. It's quite amazing. I know over these past weekends, there's been like a holiday festival or kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? The events where they were selling items in the cafeteria and stuff, and certainly I've had an opportunity to stop off and see the wonderful things each school has done for fundraising, so thank you. I have a lot of things I'm going to list off here, so first thing I want to say is that our homework help program running for our ELL students, we had some great partnerships with the Boys and Girls Club to provide transportation for those kids who needed it. That's for our non-title schools. In November 28th, I actually had an opportunity over at St. Joseph's Hospital, Project Search. There was an art kind of gala there for our kids, and so it was nice to see our kids' artwork being showcased at St. Joseph's Hospital. It was a nice event, well attended. I want to thank Marsha Bagley, all of the teachers and faculty over at St. Joseph's Hospital who were able to help facilitate that. This past week at the North here, we had a NIAS visit. This was kicked off last Sunday, so all of those board members and teachers and kids who were there last Sunday, I wanted to personally thank you. I got some positive feedback from the chair of the NIAS committee. They were very, very impressed with the dedication of the faculty, the kids, the programs. There was a nice, wonderful buffet of food, music, performance, our CTE programs. So I just want to say thank you. NIAS can be and is, a prodigious undertaking where, it's kind of an examination of your school down to core values, mission, programming. And so I just really want to thank Nate Burns, his leadership team, and for all they did for our NIAS visit. I feel like, I don't know how many performances we have, Sue, but I know we're making progress in the strategic plan. Is it fair enough to say we're a lot closer than when we started?
Yes.
Okay. So Sue and I play this game where we don't really look at the next meeting. We just keep doing meetings after meetings after meetings. So I'm going to say that we're close to about halfway there.
Oh, no, we're more than halfway.
See, don't tell me that. See, I'm going to think we're there. See, we're making progress with our strategic plan. That's fair enough. Part of what I want to say, a little bug I want to put out there, is that we have been working on getting our survey together. It's a little bit more complicated than just developing 20 questions and an open-ended responses. We really need to tailor this to our community, our students, our parents, the board, our retired teachers, all of the above. So this is a little, I would say, what do they call those, little nuggets or something, that it's coming. I just wanted to give everyone a heads up that we will make an announcement on when it's finally going to be released, but certainly the next phase in this is definitely getting that survey out. So if you haven't already had an opportunity to participate in our focus groups, please check our website. Under strategic planning, there is a schedule for that. This past, it was in November, the Arlington Community Center welcomed Megan Caron as their new director of the community center. So we wanted to officially welcome Megan to our community. To our community. At Mount Pleasant, here you go. There is a new Kate's Closet that was set up by the PTO and the Rotary Club. New painted, new shelves. I wanted to thank again the Rotary, the faculty, all of the members and community members at Mount Pleasant for setting that up. So I really appreciate it. Finally, I want to say that this is our last meeting before going into break. And I just wanted to say I wish everyone is safe. By the way, I also want, just kind of back up, all of those Jewish families that are out there, happy Hanukkah, happy holidays to all of us who are going into break. I also want to say to the kids, please be safe. We're going into break. Think about some things before there's two people on your shoulder, the good guy and the interesting guy. Listen to the good guy before things get a little hairy, if you know what I mean. But I really want people to be safe, enjoy yourself. Happy New Year to our community. Happy New Year to all who are watching this, and thank you so much. Part of this is that sometimes, and I know that many of our board members are not just board members, they're community members, they wear multiple hats. So I could not read the recognition for the state of New Hampshire by the Governor Sununu commendation and recognizing Gloria Timmons as a recipient of the commendation from Governor Sununu for her commitment to improve the quality of life for people within the New Hampshire community through her work in families, schools, and community members. If I can just add, it feels like on Saturdays I see the kids at Market Basket, and I see, the same people every day on Saturdays. So it's kind of like a very large community, but small community. If I can just pick on Gloria for a second, and the police, I saw them too on Saturday as I was shopping in Market Basket. I got a call, true story, got a call. If you can check the video on Market Basket, you can see me talking on my phone. And it's Gloria, and she said, listen, I'm giving out Christmas trees. I said, okay. She said, listen, we're so many of them. Would you be interested in Christmas trees? And I'm like, I have a fake tree at home. I don't like real trees because of a fire thing. So I was like, so just come on down. So she was at the community center with law enforcement, with community members, and I kid you not, they were giving out Christmas trees to the point where they were knocking on doors and local community members, and some of the police and fire were literally standing in the middle of the road flagging people down just to give away Christmas trees. So it just speaks again, and that's just one instance, but to all of the members who are wearing multiple hats, and certainly for you, Gloria, it epitomizes and captures the commitment you have to the community. And I can tell you that no one who passed by the community center drove by or walked by without having a Christmas tree offered to them by Gloria and the police and the fire. So I just want to, I believe some representatives of the mayor's office were there too. So I just want to say thank you for offering the Christmas tree to our community. Congratulations on this recognition. It's well deserved, and we're proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Response to the superintendent's comments, and please keep any comments relevant to what the superintendent spoke to. Mr. Kaufman, do you have anything?
No, thanks.
Okay. Ms. O'Hensy?
No, thanks.
Mr. Guarino?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to try to be as brief as I can. I want to say congratulations to Nashua High North faculty and students for Bye Bye Birdie. Sorry I missed it. I'm usually at those plays, but I heard a lot of good things about it. Also, I did get that schedule that Dr. Mosley talked about. I'm looking forward to the Santa Fun concert at Nashua High South. Although I won't be there tomorrow night. It's tomorrow and Thursday night. There's vocals and band there, so I'll be there Thursday. And let's see, what else? The NEASC tour, the NEASC day, I want to thank Ms. Bastoni for giving us a tour of CTE and Mr., I'm going to get his last name wrong, but Mr. LaLancelette for marine robotics, I'm sorry. It was really fascinating. What we're doing some great things here at CTE at Nashua High North. And one And I just want to say one quick thing about the strategic plan, and that is that I want to thank Dr. Mosley and Sue for all their hard work. We were able, as a board, we were able to convene and put our 2 cents in. I love putting my 2 cents in. But the Nashua High South Survey, Endicott Survey, I do read those surveys, and a couple of things that came from there were that students want more real-life, relatable classroom material. And the other thing was teachers would like more time to assess the curriculum and adjust it. I personally put those as comments in the plan, so strategic plan, so I hope that gets in there. And I know that actually Ms. Bastoni and the CTE is already working on making real-life relatable classroom material by doing robotics and teaching kids algebra through robotics. So I know that's already actually happening, you know. So that's really great that that's going on, and that's it. That's all I have. Thanks.
Ms. Raymond?
Thank you. I just wanted to echo the congratulations to Mrs. Timmons. It seems that every community event I go to, everything I hear about, every organization, you're there behind the scenes somewhere. So I'm just so glad that the governor has noticed and commended you for that, because it's well deserved. Regarding the NEASC, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to all of the students who came on a Sunday afternoon to share information about their organizations and their clubs that they're involved in. It was wonderful. Everybody was so positive and well-spoken, and I was just really, really impressed, which was great. And I think that's it. Regarding the calendar, I do suggest everybody take a look at that in the packet. I'll be going to some concerts for my kids, so it should be fun for everyone. Thanks.
Ms. Porter?
And I'll just also add about what a wonderful afternoon it was for NEASC. It was top of the line, and there were teachers and students who gave up their afternoon. I learned a lot. It was phenomenal, so thank you for that. And I just want to echo thanks for our student representatives. You are amazing, and good luck in the future. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you. And, well, and Gloria. Gloria.
I want to thank everyone, but I want to especially thank the Haley and Patrick for what you've done. I was so impressed with the NEASC meeting, and you got up and spoke about all the things that you had accomplished over the years, and I knew anyway, and I thank you both for the texts. Every time you have a problem, you text me, and that's okay. I really appreciate you too, and I wish that whoever stepped in your shoes as great as you two are, because you guys were wonderful. Secondly, the presentation of the Bye Bye Birdie, I did go.
Oh.
I go to everything, okay? It was fantastic. I couldn't tell you, I thought I was in a Broadway production, and so I want to thank Nashua North about their drama club and their chorus. It was just wonderful. So if you didn't go see that, try the next presentation that they have. It was great. And thank everybody for whatever you do, and have a happy holiday. And that's all I have to say.
Mr. Mosier, do you have anything?
Not at this moment.
Okay. Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes, Madam President. I want to thank our two student members. Being 6th and 8th placing in their class is remarkable. We've always had such wonderful, well-educated and dedicated members, and I'm not there to say goodbye in person, but I hope that you'll come back and visit us in the audience sometime. So congratulations on completing the year, and thank you for all that you have contributed to the discussions.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add one more thing?
Sure.
I wanted to just say, in your board packet, you also see that we're going to have a group of Chinese students come and representatives come to our schools as well. And she's out in the audience here. Caitlin Lee is one of our parents at Fairgrounds, and she has also been very active in working with us on that for a couple of years now. But again, just the kind of things that are just out there, just for you to be a part of, and certainly this is something that the district has done previously, but also it's an opportunity to have a discussion in terms of our global connections and representation of who we are. And Caitlin is a very active parent at the South, and certainly her son is with her here tonight as well. And so I just want to say thank you again, and by all means, anytime that I'm going to have a sit down with some of the administrators there, and I invite the board to come and be part of that as well. So there's a lot of great things happening here in the district. If you need additional information on that, it's always in your board packet, but I just wanted to make that quick comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to commend Ms. Timmons. I don't know where you find the time, and I know you have several grandchildren that, you watch and you guide. So congratulations to you. I'm thrilled that the governor recognized your contributions to our community. I want to thank our student board members. They have done a fantastic job, and when you look at the future, we'll have some good leadership. When Dr. Mosley talked about the NEASC presentation, that was just excellent. Nashua High and North South did a great job, and so did North. The amount of students there, the teachers, and Patrick spoke. And I thought his speech was very powerful. He mentioned that when he was a student at St. Paul's this summer, along with Haley Sweeney, when he was telling the students at St. Paul's Summer School about what we do in Nashua and what programs are available and all the AP courses, they found it unbelievable what goes on in this district. And I think that was a powerful statement to the NEASC committee, and I want to thank you for that. I also went to Bye Bye Birdie on Saturday night. It was so well done. And I think what really impressed me, they had an ensemble there, and several of the players were music teachers in our district. And for them to contribute their time and their expertise, I thought was just, I guess it shows the team building and collaboration that goes on in this district. And also at this point, after going to the strategic planning session at City Hall, I want to thank Dr. Mosley and Ms. Porter. They have spent hours and hours on this. And also the two girls in central office, Ms. Kinsella and Gabby, I can't pronounce her last name, but they type up all the little yellow Post-it notes for us to receive. So it's been quite an effort. So I think that's it for me. Okay. Committee on the Budget, we haven't had a meeting on that. Oh, good Lord, how could I forget that? Oh, I'm sorry. It's not the first time. I'm old, what can I say?
I just wanted to thank you all for your well wishes. I appreciate it a lot. It's been a great opportunity to serve on the board this year. And then also, of course, congratulations to Mrs. Timmons. That's awesome. And then I also kind of want to talk about the NEAS presentation. Kind of like Mrs. Oden said, I had the opportunity to present to the NEAS representatives and then also to take them on a tour of the school. And I guess I'd just like to say on the tour of the school, they were shocked at like how big the school was, and then how like cool rooms were, like the marine robotics room, and then specifically the automotive room. They all walked in there. These are like superintendents from around New England and principals from around New England. They walk in the automotive room and there's like cars, like students weren't working on them then, but you could see that students have been working on them. and they were just amazed that we had this in their school, and they were all like, I wish I had this in my school. So I think it just shows how much we're doing in this district and at North, and it was a great NIAS visit. So
Thank you, thank you. Haley?
So I would like to start by saying thank you to the whole board for the opportunities you guys have provided me with over the past year. I mean this wholeheartedly when I say it's been a pleasure to serve with you all, and I have learned so much, and I know this knowledge will benefit me as I move on through college, wherever that will be, and beyond that. But there is one other thing I did want to talk about tonight, and it may take a few minutes. As a student representative, I've spent a lot of time talking to the self-administration, teachers, and especially students about the issues that are important to them, ranging from things like school lunches, to grading, to the early school start time that we all dislike. However, one issue that always came up, especially when talking to AP students, was class rank. After it was mentioned a few times, I started asking around and paying more attention to what was happening in my own classes and the classes of my peers. And what I've seen and heard has been troubling to me, and I think that it is time that we address the issue. So over my 4 years of high school, I have witnessed top students become fixated on their class rank, and thus designing their whole lives to bring themselves to the top. Most commonly, they take all AP classes, filtering out intro courses by taking them through VLAX, ensuring that they can receive a higher weighted grade compared to the regular honors classes. They avoid classes in music or an unrequired elective so their GPA will not drop from the lower weighted classes. However, some new trends have started to emerge along with those. Now we have students having virtual breakdowns before a test due to fear of failing, and then another breakdown before they get a grade back, scared that they will fail even though they know they didn't. Now, we have students memorizing the usernames and passwords of their fellow students and peers to check each other's grades on Aspen X2, judging their competition. Now, we see kids doing whatever they can, no matter the consequence, to ensure that they get to the top. And when I say top, I usually mean the top of their class. Students are no longer focusing on learning the course material, instead memorizing simple things for a grade, not worrying about if they actually know about what is happening. Now students receive a grade in a course, but it does not reflect the learning process. These grades are only another hurdle that a student must pass on their way for the top. This may just seem like a culture thing, something that may only pertain to self due to the student population and the grading system. And that's what I thought too. But then, as I've talked to people around me, I started doing some research, and this has been over the past few months, and I've discovered that schools across the state and across the country have been having similar issues, and they have been taking action to fix it. So across the country, more and more schools are doing away with class rank because they have found that having a rank does not actually benefit a student. Instead, it fosters a competitive atmosphere that, according to a study from Thomas Argusky, does nothing to enhance a student's sense of self-worth, their confidence as learners, or their motivation for learning. What we are actually doing is teaching these students to analyze the way rank is decided, which for us is weighted GPA, and do whatever they can to get the highest grades possible. We are teaching kids to manipulate the system to try to become valedictorian, allowing them to ruin friendships and encouraging them to avoid classes in arts and music, what are classes that are proven to increase creativity and thoughtfulness for fear that it will ruin their GPA. In a study done by Katie Arnold, valedictorians were found to follow conventional, societally approved career paths. And within those fields, the former valedictorians rarely introduced new, groundbreaking innovations or explored areas unfamiliar to them. They stuck to the rules, never testing the boundaries, and rarely became one of the best in their field. Arnold summarized the results by saying, just because they could get A's doesn't mean they can translate academic achievements into career achievement. Now, you could argue that rank helps students as they apply to college. So I tested it out, because that's what I'm doing right now. I'm applying to college after college after college. So I called some of the top schools in the country: Harvard, MIT, Dartmouth, Yale, Bowdoin, Bates, Wesleyan, Kobe, Boston College, and Carnegie Mellon. And each one gave me the same answer. Rank adds no advantage to a student's application, nor does not having rank put a student at a disadvantage. The admissions worker who I spoke to at Boston College, whose name was Stephen Koo, said that over half of their applicants come from a school without a ranking system, so the college has evolved to evaluate applicants differently. Lee Coffin, the former dean of undergraduate admissions at Tufts, said that almost all of their applicants had such similar GPAs that evaluation of their applications went much deeper than rank. They had to focus on the rigor of an applicant's courses and extracurriculars to determine if they wanted a student, because at that point, grades did not matter. They all had the same grades. In a 2012 survey, Eric Hoover found that only 19% of colleges and universities give class rank considerable importance in the application process. And in the 6 years since then, now almost 7, the number has only decreased. So what can we do? I think at the very least, we change the way how we rank students. Schools around us, such as Hollis, Brookline, Souhegan, Campbell, and Bishop Gurdon, have moved away from our traditional first through last ranking system after they realized that rank was hurting, not helping. Most have moved to a tiered ranking system based on percentiles, while others have moved to the Latin honor system that requires a certain GPA to graduate cum laude, magna cum laude, or summa cum laude, like colleges do. Other schools, such as Wilson High School in Reading, Pennsylvania, has moved to a system where there are multiple valedictorians, a title that is awarded to students for academic achievement, instead of just saying the benediction as they graduate. One Wilson valedictorian said that the new system puts the focus on your education instead of competing for a name. Co-Brown, a semi-private school in Northwood, New Hampshire, ranks students just like we do, but also has a separate set of standards for students to follow if they want to graduate with honors or high honors, including volunteering and involvement in school activities. Similar to Co-Brown, we have a tiered diploma, but yet we do not have a tiered ranking system, showing the inconsistencies within our graduation practices. These additions could be added to policy IKC, full-time status for class rank, or IKF, high school graduation, depending on the modifications the board could decide on. As my final plea for change, I'm going to ask the district to consider altering our current ranking system. In a time where administrators are focused on the social and emotional learning of students, the school culture created by the cutthroat system is of no benefit to a student's mental or social health. When students start sacrificing their friendships, their learning, and overall well-being to obtain a number, you know that there is a problem. There is no reason to be pitting students against each other when rank is often decided by 1,000th of a point, especially when there is no benefit to a student as they progress through life. We are selecting excellence instead of developing it, something that goes against the very core of our mission statement in the Nashua School District. I want us to be able to honor students for their academic excellence, but not at the expense of learning and social emotional health. There are better ways to honor excellence besides assigning students a number. And then one more thing that I was not planning on saying, but as it's my last night on the board, I just want to remind the board that they are all elected by their constituents who have stake in this district. They have children, they have grandchildren, neighbors, kids they babysit. And we all want to see our students succeed. And I think that it's time that the board refocuses themselves onto what the students need, what the teachers need, and what our parents need. Because now it's time to move on to past differences and past contentions and everything that has caused such what I can controlled chaos. It's time for the board to change. And as I hope, as our next board, our South Board rep will see, I hope to see a different side of the board next year. Thank you.
Whoa. Powerful. Patrick, certainly your last night, whatever.
Yeah, obviously Haley, of course, knows what she's talking about. But I think I'd also like to add on that I'm not sure that all this pressure and competitiveness is solely due to just class rank. I think a lot of it, and this was me talking to teachers as well, I think a lot of it stems from parental pressure as well. I'm not sure that the students are all just being competitive just to get this class rank. I think it might be because in grades in general and getting those top grades in their classes. I mean, I know of students that get grounded if they get a B+ on a test, in just one test. I can't imagine what it would be like if they got a B+ in a semester grade. I'm sure they'd be grounded for life. But I actually do know many students that's the case in their households, and I think it might not all stem from class rank, and I think it might just stem from parental pressure. So I think informing parents that a B+ in a class is actually proficient, and there's no problem with getting a B in a class compared to an A or a C. I think that's also something we should focus on as well, because you can get rid of class ranks, but parents are still going to want to see an A+ in a class, and it's still going to be competitive with other students. So.
Wow, thank you. Like I said, people coming on are going to have big shoes to fill. Ms. Raymond.
Thank you. Ms. Sweeney, I noticed in your speech, which was fabulous, that you cited several studies. Can you email those to me?
Yep, I was planning on emailing this statement out to the board later this week, and I will have the articles I referenced, the studies. One of the ones I referenced mostly was the valedictorian study. That will all be emailed to you.
All right, great. As we look at this under policy, it's helpful for me to have the references in that policy packet.
Yep, of course. I expect it by Thursday.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
Thank
Madam
you so much.
President,
Yes, Ms. Van Twyver.
I'd like to make a comment that the policy committee did consider this topic a couple of years ago, and if Ms. Raymond would research those meetings, it might help.
Thank you, Ms. Van Twyver.
Okay.
Madam President?
Ms. O'Hensy?
I'd just like to say that if we're going to do that research, some research ought to be given to the fact there are places that require class rank, whether your school provides it or not, like most military academies. There are universities that give scholarship based on class rank, like Tufts. So there's a balance that we need to have research on both sides.
Thank you, Ms. Honsey. I think for policy, the idea of the committee is that we look into things and then try and decide what makes sense for our district. But I certainly think Ms. Sweeney brings up a point that it may be time for this district to revisit those. And what we do with that will be up to the committee.
Thank you. Committee on Finance and Operations, Mr. Greeno.
Thank you, Madam President. Our first item is a 3-year contract with Siemens for industry for heating, ventilation, air condition at 4 elementary schools. Mr. Donovan and Mr. Smith had gone over this in the committee, so I'm not going to elaborate on it. So I'm going to move to recommend to approve a 3-year contract with Siemens Industry for heating, HVAC controls for 4 elementary schools at a cost of, for year 1, $16,947, year 2, $17,456, and year 3, $17,979.
So move.
Seconded, is that second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, roll call.
On the motion, Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mrs. Oden,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Hohensee,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes?
Mr. Greeno votes yes. Ms. Porter?
Yes.
I have 9 yeses and 0 nos. The motion carries. Our second item is purchase of 2 burnishers. 3 burnishers. A rider burnisher for Nashua High School North for $11,795, and 2 walk-behind burnishers for Nashua High South School for $11,282.76. So I'm going to move to recommend to approve the purchase of these rider burnishers at Nashua High North, and for $11,795, and 2 walk-behind burnishers for Nashua High School South for $11,282.76.
Second.
Any questions or comments? I will make one comment because I was there. The reason South is not having any riding burnishes, they can't fit them on the elevators at South, which I thought was interesting. Okay. Roll call.
On the motion, Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mrs. Oden,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Hohensee,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0. Our next contract is a contract for mathematics integration into the CTE programs. I believe the contract is included in the packet. So I'm going to move to recommend to approve the contract for $37,000 with Mr. Robert Lukaziak to be funded with mathematics integration into the 21st century CTE programs, innovation in math CTE grant.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Kaufman?
Thank you. I will be voting for this, but I do so reluctantly, not because I don't think the CTE program needs all the math integration it could get, but I would like to think that we have resources already on our staff, head math teachers, the math people that we have are, mathletes in the high schools do very, very well in the competition. So it's clear that they know, our teachers know what they're doing. That's why I question this expense. I will vote for it, but I would like to think in the future that we look to internal resources to do this and perhaps use this money. I understand it's a grant. Perhaps use this grant money in another way. Thank you.
Mr. Guarino and then Ms.
Thank-
Fitzpatrick.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that this is a grant, so, and this is for all year. This is, I believe this is for I don't want to misspeak, but I think this is for the algebra. I'll let it is for the algebra, right. I'll let Ms. Fitzpatrick describe it.
Thank you. Ms. Fitzpatrick?
Yes, this gentleman is the president of the New Hampshire Math Association, so he represents all math teachers across the state. This grant, this is from grant money, as you stated before, and he specifically has been contracted to help us develop the algebra curriculum that will be earned through a CTE course. So the district is approving it, but technically the district's not paying for it, and the person who we have contracted with is highly qualified.
And it doesn't pull our math teachers. It doesn't add extra burden on some of our teachers in their regular day-to-day operations.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Roll call?
On the motion, Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mrs. Oden,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Hohensie,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0. The next item is a contract for ELL services, and actually ELL software. Again, it's going to be funded with grants, so I'm going to move to recommend to approve the contract with Elevation, Inc. for 2 ELL software modules for $13,115 to be funded with the ELL grant funds.
Second.
Okay. Any questions, any comments? Okay. Ms. Raymond?
Thank you. Do we know the grades that this software is applicable to? Is it K through 12 curriculum? Is it only in the secondary level?
It can be used throughout the grades. What it is a resource for teachers to be able to target specifically where ELL kids are within their class and what they can manage so that they're more able to direct their teaching.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Paul?
On the motion, Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mrs. Oden,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Hohensie,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0. Our last item is the fiscal 2019 October transfer report. Mr. Donovan, as he always does, went over this in detail at our committee meeting, so I'm not going to elaborate on it any further. So I'm going to move to recommend to approve the fiscal year 2019 October transfer report.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, roll call.
On the motion, Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mrs. Oden,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Hohensie,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes,
Mr. Greeno votes yes. Ms. Porter,
Yes.
motion carries 9-0. Our next meeting would be tomorrow here at 6:30 PM in this room.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Greeno.
Madam President, I don't want to be amiss that we missed Committee on Budget. We just went straight to Committee on Finance and Operations. I don't think we did the Committee on Budget.
I mentioned it, but we hadn't had a budget meeting.
Okay.
Mrs. Oden?
Yes?
If I may, as Budget Chair, before we close the year, I would like to recommend that the board get some training on best practices in budget. I requested that that be added, I guess, to the Finance Committee because it involves an expenditure of probably about 430 times 15, so about $450.
Okay.
Thank you.
So is that on the
We get a
agenda for
referral to the
tomorrow
committee,
night?
please?
Is that on your agenda for tomorrow night, or will it be at your next meeting?
It's not on the agenda for tomorrow night.
Okay, so the next meeting probably?
Probably.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you.
Budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
Committee on Policy?
Thank you, Mrs. Oden. We have not met since our last meeting. Our next meeting is on December the 18th. We are going to have a little bit of, not training, but discussion regarding mandated reporter laws and changes so that we can update our policies accordingly. We're also going to talk a little bit about educational philosophy. And I forget the third thing. So it is on the 18th at 6 o'clock here.
Okay, thank you. Committee on Curriculum and Evaluation.
Madam President.
Yes.
We did not have a meeting, I believe, in November, and our next meeting is on the 17th of December.
12/17. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Van Twyver. Committee on Human Resources, Ms. Timmons?
Yes, Madam President, I move to suspend the rules as the Human Resources Committee met today at 6:31. I'd like to move to accept the personnel recommendation dated December the 10th, 2018.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, roll call.
On the motion, Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mrs. Oden,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Hohensie,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes,
Mr. Greeno votes yes. Ms. Porter,
Yes.
motion carries 9-0.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to unfinished business, additional targeted support and comprehensive support and improvement school notification list.
So as a follow-up to our last meeting, as I shared with the board and the public, and this is public knowledge, that the Lead Streak was our school that fell significantly below the threshold for student achievement for a variety of factors, particularly around our special education, ELL students, and free and reduced lunch, and the targeted categories. There were some other schools, and this is not an alarm or anything like that. It's just for the spirit of just making sure it's out there that there were other schools that, according to the subcategories, also qualified for additional targeted supports. And so we're going to be taking a look at the data more closely around that, and certainly coming up with some strategies to make sure that the identified areas of students, particularly in those demographics, we take a close look at them. Dr. McKinney, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or? Okay.
No, thank you, Dr. Mosley.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay. Enrollment update.
So this was, this was a request, Madam Chair, for an enrollment update, but also, we also made some, we also included some information on class size as well and occupancy of those class sizes. So this is just to honor that request and to inform the board. Typically, I think another board member also asked about some enrollment numbers at Brentwood and also at our Clearway program as well. So these are just kind of these are numbers or data just to inform the board in terms of district-wide enrollment, class size, and what's going on in terms of enrollment throughout the district. I think it's important to note that some of our classrooms at the high school level, if you see, we had some CAD labs, some of our CTE programs, please keep in mind that class size is very different than an English class or an algebra class because of the capacity to make sure students are safe around equipment within those programs. So this is more informational than anything, but certainly if we at some point want to delve into the details of the data, certainly we can have that discussion at the curriculum evaluation, or if you have some other questions, I'd be more than happy to take them and bring them back to the appropriate people to get them answered and addressed if the board shall choose so.
Okay. I personally would like to thank you because I asked for some of the class sizes, but I don't think I've seen high school class sizes listed like this for a long time, if ever. So thank you very much. I know that this took a lot of work, a lot of time, but I do appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
I ready.
Oh, you want me to keep going? Yeah, I ready. Yeah. This iReady, just had it with me. There was some iReady data that was requested by the board, and we certainly wanted to make sure that this information was shared with the board and to give you a sense of our iReady scores that have been presented thus far. I know that you know, to put this into context, our iReady scores are given periodically throughout the year. I believe that we could do a better job, and I'm looking at Dr. McKinney on this a little bit. When we first showed up, iReady pre-test, mid-assessments, and post-test were given at various times throughout the district. Now, does that make a difference? It certainly does. A student, I would say student X of mine, took an iReady mid-test the first day he got back from break. So obviously there's going to be some regression there because, you know, he was out for a week. So part of it is that we want to make sure that we coordinate this district-wide to make sure we get accurate results both post and pre-test. So there are some information requested by some previous discussions around iReady, and so this is to honor that request at previous meetings we had at the board. Anything you want to add, Dr. McKinney, to this?
No, this request came before I forwarded this presentation to Ms. Kinsella. It wasn't forwarded to the entire board, so now we're just making sure that all board members have access to the complete presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you. I requested that this be sent to the board, and the reason why I did, if I recall correctly, I think it was August or September, I don't remember exactly. This presentation was given to the curriculum committee, and at that time, Dr. McKinney, when he gave the presentation, skipped over two particular slides in the presentation, pages 20 and 21. And that was the reason why I asked that this be given to the board. And now, if I may, Mrs. Oden, I'd like to have an explanation of slides 20 and 21. They were not given to us previously in committee. It's the reason why I asked for it to be provided to us, and thank you for adding it to tonight's agenda.
Is there any particular reason why you want pages 20 and 21 explained?
There's no legend on the page to explain what those triangular, I'll call them dots, are. It's a scatter diagram showing something. So, and I don't know, 2 schools are mentioned on one, no schools are mentioned on the other. There's 8 data points on one and many, many more on the other. So I have no idea. I'm guessing these are schools. You know, they're all in the high performance, high growth, but I don't understand the context. I don't know what schools are which. There's one outlier. I don't know which school that is. And I'd like an explanation as to why it was originally left out of the presentation.
Dr. McKinney?
When I presented this information, I felt the need to present the district performance as a whole and not present individual schools and their performance. If there are questions or concerns regarding the individual performance of separate schools, I certainly would encourage board members to ask those requests or direct those through the superintendent's office, and we can respond accordingly. My focus at the time is around the growth of all students and not pinning certain schools against each other. And given the added accountability standards that are coming to 5 elementary schools, I feel a responsibility to make sure all schools consistently improve and achieve at a high level. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, moving on to new business. Approval of the 2019 Board of Ed meeting schedule. Anybody have any concerns, questions?
There's no, you need a motion to discuss, Mrs. Oden?
Yes, we will. Do you want to make a motion?
Certainly.
Sure.
I move to indefinitely suspend this, and I'll give a reason why if you get a second.
Second.
Because we approved one last year, the board as a whole, and we were supposed to go by it, and our last meeting was just unceremoniously eliminated. So I don't think we should give an illusion to the public that this is a schedule that we're going to adhere to when the board was not consulted. One of our meetings was just eliminated. I find that disturbing that we're just violating our rules left, right, and sideways, and so I think it's more appropriate we indefinitely suspend it.
Mr. Kaufman?
Thank you. I would also speak to the point that in the past we met every other week. This proposal here is generally the second and last Monday. I'll point out that in January there'll be 3 weeks between meetings. In April there'll be 3 weeks. September there'll be 3 weeks. I think we should meet every other week. Obviously during the summer we do one meeting a month. So I don't think this schedule does the public justice in terms of our commitment to the community. And I'll be voting for this motion. Should that fail, I'll be voting against it.
Mr. Greeno?
Thank you, Madam President. I think indefinitely suspending the schedule makes it worse. If you want transparency, you want people to know what the board is doing, then let's have a schedule. Things come up every year, you know, every month things come up, and the board has discretion over our schedule. We can change, especially the president. You know, the president has always, Mrs. Oden has always been forthcoming in asking us, will we be available? She's gone above and beyond the call of duty to ask us what our schedule is like. You know, and I think she's done a great job. And I think we ought to tell the public when we're going to meet. We don't have to meet every other week. That's too much. In fact, according to the state law, we don't have to meet this many times on the schedule either. I think it's once a month or so many times a year. So I'm perfectly fine with this schedule here. I am not going to vote to indefinitely suspend this schedule.
Madam President,
Yes, Ms. Van Twyver.
we have always met on the second and fourth Monday of the month. That was the standard practice, and we also had set days when the committees would meet. Now, if the board wants to change those meeting dates, I think they ought to tell us what it is that they want, and we vote on it and get it accepted. I don't believe that we need to meet every other week, but it's been standard practice to meet the second and fourth, and I believe it's the fourth Monday of the month. So I'm not going to vote for suspending this.
Okay. Ms. O'Hensley, you've spoken to this?
Yes, I have.
I'll let you speak again. I'll speak
I'd be happy
after
to
you.
withdraw my motion if there was a commitment by the board to follow the rules. If we as a board pass a schedule, which I believe we should do, then we should adhere to it. If we as a board amend it, then we can do that. But we don't have one person just saying, we're going to eliminate this meeting or that meeting, because it undermines us as a board. And that's what I'm offended by. If we are not setting an agenda that we're going to follow, then let our president set it, because that's what we've just done. So either we as a board have the authority, or she as our board president can do what she pleases.
Okay. Ms. Timmons?
I'm going to support this schedule. First of all, I don't think our board president did as she pleases because she took a consensus. She called us, and I agree with the cancellation of that one.
Never contacted.
Never contacted.
Excuse me, you're out of order. I'll speak to this.
Thank you.
Sorry, Ms. Timmons.
That's okay. Yeah, you did contact us and see if our schedule was busy, and there wasn't anything on that particular cancel meeting, and I totally agree with it. Some of us are so committed in all the other committees that we're constantly in meetings all the time. And then some of us only got the board meetings, so that meeting every other week is okay with them because they're not meeting all during the week like we are, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. I think that's unreasonable. I think having a meeting the first of the month and closer to the end of the month is better. Then we have time to breathe in between those meetings. I find that it was overwhelming when we had all the meetings that we did have, when half of us was on the meetings and half of us didn't attend any of them except the board meeting. So that's my opinion on why we should stick to a set schedule.
Madam President?
Yeah, Ms. Van Twyver, have you spoken on this?
I did, but
I did. I think first, I think Ms. Raymond had her hand raised.
All right.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back to you. Ms. Raymond?
Oh, thank you. I have 2 things to say. The first thing is that I think that with anything, a bit of grace and flexibility is always helpful. Things come up, things change. I mean, this is life, and I think we ought to afford each other a bit of grace and flexibility. And the second thing is, I'm troubled by the fact that we tend to spend more time at our meetings talking about ourselves and our meetings and how things affect the workings of the board than we do on the things affecting our students and staff. And so I just would like to call on us to move it along.
Good point. Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes, did Tara develop this schedule according to back practice? Do you know?
I believe she did.
Then I think we ought to stick with it.
Mr. Reno?
Thank you, Madam President. I believe Ms. Van Twyver said that in the past, meetings generally occur on the second and last Monday of the month. Is that correct? And I think that's what they're following, the past practice. That's what it looks like right here.
Okay, I'll speak to this. Combining 2 Board of Education meetings when there is little business on the agenda and none that is time-sensitive has been done in the past. Let me remind people that this board has 2 fewer members serving on standing committees than most boards have had in the past, making more work for those 6 members. As president, I do not have a seat on any standing committee, but may be considered as a member to attain a quorum when there is only one member on a standing committee that is physically present at a meeting. We have one member who refused any of their committee assignments, while another resigned their only seat on a standing committee earlier this year. Members of standing committees are expected to attend their assigned committee meetings. It is expected they stay until the meeting has adjourned unless there are conflicts in their schedules. Members do pick and choose which members do not pick and choose which agenda items they want to weigh in on and which ones do not interest them. They do not leave in the middle of a meeting when they only have an interest in a particular item on the agenda. Furthermore, of the 6 board members who presently serve on the 4 standing committees, 4 of them also serve on the Joint Special School Building Committee. There are a total of 5 board members of education members on the committee, as I am also a member of the Joint Special. As members, we have had 5 meetings recently that addressed the middle school project, some of which were lengthy and late meetings. I find it amusing that certain members want to complain about combining a late November meeting with this December meeting, as I believe you ought to fulfill your responsibilities as board members and put in the time as full participating members before you complain about committee meetings. Thank you. We are going to have some... I'm sorry, Mr. Mosier?
Yes, I was looking at the regular meeting schedule for the next year. And, as I recall, is that this is a schedule which is tentative, that is not necessarily going to have the meetings on these particular days, depending on other circumstances that may arise. And, of course, knowing the board is a dynamic moving board, that we can do certain things and adjust our schedules accordingly. And I think that it's time that we just take a look at this and say, well, okay, this is a very good schedule, and of course, being it is made by the dynamics that may appear. We should just look at it and say, okay, I can agree with this schedule, and pass it.
Thank you. Okay, can you read them up? Ms. O'Hensey?
Thank you. I would just like to point out that there's been rampant elimination of board member requests under new business. So maybe those meetings seem very sparse, but it's because a lot of things have been eliminated that board members are entitled to ask for under new business. Also, I'll withdraw my motion because I just made a point. I don't really want the vote on it. But it was evident from what Mrs. Timmons said that certain members were consulted, not the full board. So, whatever, that was my point, that the board as a whole should be deciding these things.
You need a majority, and I had a majority of members.
There was never a vote.
I asked them if they had items on their agenda that needed to be addressed, and none of them had time-sensitive issues. So I made the decision that we would combine them. As I said, people on this board have been working extra hard because there are members who refuse to serve on standing committees, and that's time-consuming. Of those people, there are 5 of us who are serving on Joint Special, and that's been time-consuming lately, so I make no apologies for this. I think you have to be considerate and give the people that are doing the work a little respect. Thank you.
May I follow
Okay.
up? Because you
No,
interrupted.
I think we should just continue, but Mr. Guarino.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam
Guarino.
President. Thank you, Madam President. I move to approve the 2019 BOE meeting schedule.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments? No. Okay,
Madam
Roll.
President, I do have one comment since
Okay.
it's under discussion. I didn't see any of the committee meetings. We usually approve those at the same time, and I'm wondering that if that has been held up because of the new year coming up and reassignment of chairman and all that. We did have set days that we met on for the committees too, so I like to have them set days because then I know where I have to be when I have to be there. So.
Next,
Mr. Mosher?
yes, next month when we have the reorganization meeting, then we know who's going to be on the committees, and we can estimate the dates.
Thank you. Also, we will be able to see how many members are willing to serve on those standing committees, which in the past has always been a given. But when you have fewer people doing the work, you have to consider their workload. So we'll wait until January to determine the schedule for committees.
Are you ready for the vote, Madam President?
I have a
Mr.
comment.
Kaufman has his hand up.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to amend the motion to include the meeting place be this boardroom.
I don't think that's necessary.
Oh, second.
Oh. She was sleeping on you, huh? Okay. There is a motion with a second to amend the schedule to say that this, I'll let you read it, I'm sorry. I'm going from my memory.
Okay, the amendment is to have the meetings of the BOE at this Nashua High North Boardroom.
I'm sorry, it's on here. I apologize. They're already on here.
Do you want to withdraw that amendment then?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. My mistake.
Okay. All right. On the motion to approve the 2019 BOE meeting schedule, Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mrs. Oden,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
No.
oops, Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Hohensee,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Porter,
Yes.
we have 1 no, and we have 8 yeses. The motion carries.
Okay. New Hampshire Code of Ethics for Educational Professionals, updated version.
Excuse me, the union president actually spoke to this earlier. I think it's imperative that the board understand the language with what is in this code of ethics and the code of conduct for educators. At this point, I'm still becoming familiar with it. It was passed fairly recently, and so I think it's incumbent on the superintendent and the administration to make sure that in addition to our policies around ethical behavior and code of conduct, there's also another entity out there at the state level in which will play an impact on anyone who violates what is perceived to be the code of ethics or conduct. This is new. I don't really have a comment, yay or nay, but I really think it's incumbent for the board to be aware of this. There is, I don't want to say doom and gloom, but understand that in addition to our procedures and policies around this, there's also another branch of I would say, supervision in which the state has also now is going to play a role in. So I just think it's incumbent on us to review it, make sure that we understand it, read it 2 times, and I have too, and certainly as we start to see this play out a little more, I will keep the board updated on just the happenings of what this new, these 2 new policies are for our school district.
Ms. Raymond?
Thank you. Just to be clear, this is a new state law that was adopted in November?
You're right. So this this is all new and was adopted and voted on at the state level, correct? So it does have far-reaching ramifications in the sense that our educators now will be held to the standard.
Thank you for making us aware of this.
And you know, I don't want to say doom and gloom, but it's also, again, you know, I caution everything that's around social media, you know, the educators being held to a higher standard. So just be aware that I might find something, like for instance, I may say, hey, that's a borderline inappropriate website. I may decide that. But at the state level, they may say that's a violation of the code of conduct or the ethical conduct. So you just have to be aware of this. And I'm using the social media piece as an example for I don't have Facebook or anything like that, but just to be cognizant that this is now in place. So we've been talking to administrators about this. I know, you know, Mr. Marcoux spoke to it earlier today, but I think it's paramount for us to just be aware that this is now active.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay. Moving on, the New Hampshire Code of Conduct for Educational Professionals, updated version.
Same thing, just
Okay.
all of it.
Any questions or comments? District-wide Safety Committee discussion.
So,
Okay.
go ahead.
No, go on. You're prepared.
No, I think part of this is that when you're doing safety in the schools, there's a variety of information that goes out there. I would, and I know that there's been some discussion around a proposal of a district-wide safety committee. We do have I'd like us to, in addition to our committees we have at the building level, I would be very interested in entertaining kind of a global piece to that. Sometime in the future, we are meeting with law enforcement to continue a discussion around next steps. And I'll just leave it at that. There was some preliminary discussion with some union representatives around this, and certainly would like to continue having that discussion along with Chris Lassard, our safety coordinator here in the district.
Okay, did anybody want to speak to this? Okay.
I'd be more than happy at a later date to update the board on this committee if that seems appropriate.
Mrs. Oden.
Yes, please.
Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you. If I recall, it was a proposal that Ms. Porter had made to us, and this was a follow-up on her concerns. So I'm not getting the feeling from what I just heard that anything is happening, anything is moving forward. I personally, as a board member, would like to see something convened. I think the board needs to be involved at the participatory level, not advisory level. And I would like to hear what Ms. Porter has to say, because this was started with her.
I believe we're going into non-public, and I'd prefer to discuss it then.
Excuse me, Mrs. Oden, but this is about a safety committee. Are we going to create one? We can do that action at the board meeting. If you want to discuss...
I brought it up for something, I didn't have a deadline in mind, that we had to do it by a certain time. I'm happy that the discussion is continuing, and I'm satisfied. So it's an ongoing discussion, and I think that we need to put a lot of thought into it before something is decided, so I'm satisfied.
Okay.
Thank you.
And by no means is anything set in stone, so thank you.
Mr. Kaufman?
I have some new business, Ms. Oden.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Mrs. Oden?
I'm sorry.
I apologize, but it's come to my attention that adding new business at the meeting violates the right to know law.
No,
the public has a right to know 48 hours in advance what we are going to be discussing, so they have an opportunity to prepare and respond.
Okay.
Mrs. Oden, policy BEDB allows any board member to bring up new business at the meeting.
Madam President.
Just a minute, Ms. Van Twyver. I have a couple of people here, Ms. O'Hensey, Mr. Greeno, and then Ms. Van Twyver.
This also, thank you. This also feeds into the fact that we put in requests. I know members have put in requests, and those requests have been denied. So what alternative does a member have when they're censured before you can even get on new business?
Mr. Guarino?
Yes, no one was censored. State law, right to know, supersedes any policy that we have. So if you're in violation of the right to know law, whether it's here, when you bring new business and you haven't notified the public, or whether you're on email and you're emailing the entire board, where you're not supposed to email the entire board, that violates right to know. And if you talk to me about adding things to my committee, I'm not going to respond and I'm not going to discuss it because you're making me complicit, okay, in the violation of right to know. So there's a very easy way to communicate. Pick up the phone, email me, and I will talk. But you cannot violate right to know. And we have been, Mr. Bolton knows what he's doing. He's got a law degree and he's got many years' experience as a lawyer. So I listen to him. He says, do not, and you know, I did it in the beginning, and I was wrong. So I do not email the entire board. Okay, do not discuss board business in that manner, and that's all I have to say.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Madam President, this has gotten to be unreal. Both Robert's Rules of Order and our policy state that we are able to make motions, bring up new business. Now, I don't know where Mr. Bolton is getting his idea that this is a violation of the right to know law. I don't believe it is. And I think he seems to be bending the rules to satisfy some people so that some of us cannot have a say. And it's really getting under my skin. You know, I believe Robert's Rules of Order put there for civil discourse. And we can't even discuss if you can't bring it up. Now, you know, I understand that you're tired of dealing with certain people on this board bringing up new business, but unfortunately, you cannot take away the rights of an individual unless you have a 2/3 vote. And you know, I get really upset with people who don't want to follow the rules. Now. And that goes for both the administration and this board. And if you're not going to let us speak, then we don't even need to attend the meeting. I don't understand why. Madam President, all I heard from you was transparency in previous years. And I don't see where we can get any kind of transparency at all. Why is it that it's okay for some of us to have to abide by the rules and some of us don't? I just don't understand that. If you don't want to abide by Robert's rules, then throw it out. Take it out of our policies. But that governs us. And also the policy on BED, whatever it is. I can't remember the name. And I've had a lot of discussions with, I've sent... well, anyways, you can't fight City Hall. He's the lawyer, both of them, Klaas and I comment to them on a lot of things that you've taken away our rights. And, you know, I'm not always with those that you are opposing, and I'm not always with you people. Excuse me, not you people, but you people that, the majority, okay? I make my decisions by myself, so, you know, this has got to stop. It has to stop. Either you play by the rules or let's just throw this thing out altogether.
Ms. Raymond.
Thank you. It's not my desire to prevent people from speaking, and I think over the past year, it's pretty clear to anyone watching or listening that I advocate the right for people to speak. However, there is a process, and we are bound by state law. And my understanding of state laws has grown as I have served on this committee. There is quite the learning curve as we are on the board. Having said that, It's my desire that we comply with the law and conduct our business efficiently. It is neither efficient nor fair to continually drop bombshells on people. We have a process, and that process is you submit your request in writing on time, and it gets placed on the agenda. Now, should we fill up our agenda with 18 things from one person every month? No. There's a queue. It goes onto the queue. That's how I run my policy committee. That's how the regular board meetings ought to be run. Okay? So, it goes on the queue. If there's a committee it belongs to, it ought to go to that committee instead of spending board time here at the main board. The public is not here to watch theatrics. Or maybe they are. I don't know. Maybe that's why everybody watches us. But we need to be calm. We need to be clear, concise, and efficient. And that means doing the work of the school district and not our personal agendas. So if we want to have something on, submit it, give everybody a chance to evaluate what's going to go and be able to formulate a response before the board meeting.
Mr. Kaufman and then Ms. Porter.
Thank you. That's exactly what I have done, is I've sent an email to the board president, usually on the Monday, so I'm not up against the Tuesday limit, because I've done that, and that's another story. Things haven't happened. I've made requests, and my requests for agenda items have not been fulfilled. What I get in response, per policy, as BED, what I do is I get a note from Mrs. Oden. This is the second time where I've gotten a note. Did you guys get a copy of the note that Mrs. Oden sent to me? No. You don't know. You know that I requested things on the agenda. Ms. Raymond just said if you make the request, it would be added to the agenda. That's the respect I ask for as a member of this board. It should not be censored, where I get a private letter. I don't know if you can get this, Jimmy. A private letter saying what the disposition is going to be of items that I requested for public discussion. The board doesn't have it on its agenda. The board, even though I'm following the policy, Mrs. Oden, as chair, continuously violates it and doesn't give the voice of a board member, the public, who has something to communicate to the public, because that's the only way to reach the public is in this forum or in a committee. And it used to be that a board member could make a request of the board and request referral to a committee, which I've tried to do that and I have been cut off. I was told then, oh, just make a request to the chair, and I've done that. So I've tried to accommodate the shifting lines. The fact is the policy allows new business to come up. The fact is, in the past, the courtesy was afforded to a board member to put a requested item, given the time limits of submission, onto an agenda. That doesn't happen. It has not happened under your watch, Mrs. Oden. And that's why I'm forced to try and bring things up under new business, because my other methodology of following the rules and following the rules here is just stymied every time. So please, let's use the policy we have. It's not contrary to the right to know law. It's the board policy that allows new business to come forward, and I request my opportunity to speak.
Could I please speak?
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to challenge people in the public who watch these meetings and who read our meeting minutes. Count how many times board members speak, each one. Get a stopwatch. Count how much time they have on this floor. No one is censored. Mrs. Oden is more than fair. We have a democratic process. We have a democratic process. We don't have just two people on this board who try to dominate everything, okay? And that's what would happen, okay? Everybody gets a fair share, and I resent that people saying that the president hasn't been fair. It's just not true. It's right there in the meeting minutes. It's right there in the videotape. All you have to do is watch it.
Madam President.
Yes, Ms. Van Twyver?
I disagree with Mr. Guarino so entirely. How else do we get to bring topics to the forefront that we want to know about? It's our responsibility to oversee this this district. And if we can't get the information that we want and need, then why, I mean, it's ridiculous. You can always bring up, how else do we do it? You cut us off from member comments at the end of the meeting sometimes, and how else? Tell me, how else can we get the subject and the information that we need? Now, I've asked for a lot of things that I have not gotten either. And if I think it's important enough, I ask for it. And if I don't get it, how else, what do we do? Tell me, what do we do? And I don't believe that, Madam President, has been fair. You know, I get sick and tired of hearing two people sometimes, but they have the right. You cannot take away the rights of individuals unless you have a 2/3 vote. And if you can't allow us to bring up new business, we can't address anything other than what the superintendent's comments, we can't only address it there. The only other opportunity we have is when we have our comments at the end of the meeting, and that's been cut off at times. So who's being fair here? I don't see it. And you know, I just get so doggone frustrated. I don't want long meetings. I don't want people not to get the information that they need. Now, to be honest with you, I don't think the majority of this board asks enough questions of administration so that we challenge them about how this district is being run. And if they're not going to be forthcoming with the information, then what are you going to do? I'm glad I'm not running again next year, to be honest with you. I am not. 8 years is enough. The first 6 and 7 years, first 6 years was terrific. I thought we made a lot of progress. The 7th year was not so great. So the 8th year, I hope, will change.
I would just like to respond. It was probably 2 months ago, I got a request from one of the board members complaining to add 12 new items to under new business to the agenda. 12 items. I don't think there was one from another board member. It took us probably an hour and a half where we went through and had to vote by roll call to send them to committee. After we spent that long meeting, I received a request for 14 items from that same member to add new business items to the agenda. What I did at that point, I sent the person, I believe, a letter saying what each one should fall in committee assignments. When the individual sent me the items they asked to be on the agenda tonight, there was one that had to go to finance because it had money on it, and that's where the discussion should happen at board meetings. For some reason, people want to have the whole board at every meeting involved in this, and quite frankly, the work should be done at committee meetings. Mr. Kaufman, I'd like you to read the letter that I sent you.
Be happy to, but I want to point out that you did not give a copy to everybody else on this board.
Okay.
And that's a violation of the public right to know. Howard.
How do you see that?
I'm sorry?
How do you see that as a violation of the right to know?
I sent you an agenda request. You replied to me by letter in the public packet, and that is public, what is in this packet. It's not in a confidential envelope. You couldn't consider this confidential by any means. Let me read it.
It wasn't meant to be confidential.
It was in a sealed envelope, and I'm the only one who received it. That, to me, is a violation of the right to know law.
Did it have
Did you want me to read it?
Yes.
No.
Did it have confidential on it, on the envelope?
No.
Have I sent you envelopes with confidential written on them?
In the past,
Yes, thank you.
But this is about my agenda request. So
Okay.
here's what I had requested, which none of these things showed up tonight. The discipline report, concerning student, teacher, and staff safety will be addressed at a later meeting as the data from the state could not be available by Friday. I had asked for a report on student detentions and things like that in lieu of the incident that we had at the high school with 30 suspensions. The second item was the issue from Kessler Farms concerning the request for new bus stops will be addressed in a letter that will be in the packet. There was nothing in this packet that addressed the issue at Kessler Farms. This was a parent who wrote to the board asking for bus stops for their student.
It's in the packet.
I missed it. I spoke with Alderman Dowd, chair of the JSSBC. He believes it is premature to bring up the matter of naming or renaming a school at this point in time. I agree with him. He will be looking into how the process is conducted. I will be putting this on the agenda. I will not be putting this on the agenda. So what I did was I asked for a discussion to name the new renovated middle school in honor of Brian McCarthy. And my request, your request for PD for board members and budgeting will have to go to F&O, and that did come up tonight. Ms. Oden referred that to finance. Mr. Guarino said he would do it in the next month, and then it's just signed Dottie.
Okay.
These are legitimate requests that should be on an agenda, even if they refer to a committee. That's what the process says. You bring an issue up, and the board refers it to a committee. That's the process. That's BEDB. We either follow it, as Ms. Van Twyver said, or just go Wild West, because you try to play by the rules and you move the lines.
Did you not have 3 emails to different committee chairmen to ask for things to be added to the committee agenda?
I did, and that's because in the past, you would not bring them up here. You said to send them directly
Right.
to those committee chairs. I have one answer. Ms. Raymond acknowledged. She said she'd add it to the queue. I've heard nothing from the other committees.
Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Kaufman. Okay, we're going to have to extend for a half hour, 30 minutes, as we have a non-public.
Excuse me, Mrs. Oden. Are we going to have new business? Am I going to be able to bring things up under new business or not?
We're going to have to take a vote on that, Mr. Kaufman. It all depends how long what the motion is.
Well, you won't know until after you extend the meeting, I guess.
All right, I move to extend the meeting 30 minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll speak to it.
Discussion?
Yes, I do have a discussion. I would like to have the public comment
Yes.
immediately after we extend. Okay, I think it's only fair. It's already 9 o'clock, and I know these meetings get very lengthy. So I would like the public comments to be moved ahead.
Do you want to make a motion on that?
Yes, can we make the motion after we did
Do we have to vote on this one first?
Do you have a motion on the floor?
Yeah, my motion was to extend the meeting, and I wanted to speak to it very, very briefly.
Okay.
Simply that I see some students in the audience, I see some parents in the audience, and I just want to make sure that people who've been waiting, who wish to speak, got a chance to speak.
Yes.
So,
Are we ready for the vote to extend the meeting?
Over here,
Ms. Hohensie?
I'd like to amend the motion to add the public comment and add board member comments in there too, to make sure that we get that covered.
and then go into the non-public?
Well, yeah, the public part would be before the non-public part,
Fine.
if I can have a second.
Second.
Can I speak on that, add in the board comment? Because after the public comment, there may be a motion to adjourn. So I don't want to add that.
Well, we need our
Okay,
non-public.
well, we
We
have-
need, we,
Point.
we have one motion on the floor to
And an
extend the
amendment.
meeting, right?
And an amendment.
And what was the amendment?
The amendment is,
The amendment was to go immediately upon extending to public comments and then board comments. Is that correct, Ms. Hohensee?
That's correct.
And I seconded the amendment.
Okay. On the amendment to go directly to public comments, then to board comments, Mr. Mosher?
No.
Mrs. Oden?
No.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
No.
Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver? Ms. Van Twyver, you still there with us?
Sorry, I had it on mute. Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes no. Ms. Porter?
Yes.
We have
Excuse
1,
me.
2, 3, 4, 5 yeses and 4 nos. So the amendment to the motion to extend the meeting passes. Now on the motion to extend the meeting and then go directly to public comments, then to board comments. Mr. Mosher?
No.
Mrs. Oden?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
I'm sorry. Oh, that was on the, I'm sorry, clarification. So we voted on the amendment to include those things. So this is on the actual extent, okay, yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Sorry, yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
I'm confused. Would you restate the motion?
The motion is to extend the meeting 30 minutes and then go directly to public comments, then to board comments.
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries 8-1. So we're going directly to public comments and then to board comments.
Okay. Is there anybody sitting there that has a comment? Would like to come down, state your name and address? Sure, come on down.
Hello, I'm George. I'm a junior at South, and I heard there was going to be a discussion on class rank, and Haley brought it up. So I thought I would maybe say a few words. First, I would like to say that Haley's a great friend of mine, and I appreciate all the research that she put into it. I know she did a lot of work. But I also like to say that there are some advantages to the class rank system, that first and foremost, it recognizes hard work and the studying of people who put in a lot of hours. So I think we need that in place to recognize those people, because I think they deserve it the most. And then in that way, it serves as an incentive for students to work hard. And when they do work hard, they learn. So, and colleges do look favorably upon that they can take on that stress, and they can take on, like, you know, it's a lot to put on a student. So I think we should reward students for doing that. And so I think in the end, although there may be some flaws to the system, like Mrs. Raymond said, it's definitely something we should at least look at instead of just like throw the whole system away. But so yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Thank you, George. Thanks.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Okay. Board member comments. I'll start with Mr. Kaufman.
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Hohensie?
Thank you. I just want to say something about the 30 suspended students. I also want to point out that the board hasn't received any additional information other than what was in the press, so you understand what information we do and do not have. I was rather stunned. I want to know what evidence there was that there were 30, not more, not less. Did they have a photograph? It seems like a big number to keep in your head. I want to know if they were all mocking administrators or just some, how many, and are we all blamed for one or two? I want to know if there was no other discipline considered, whether a warning or a detention was even considered for various behaviors. And I want to make sure that there's very little consideration of students, hardworking students, that want to apply to select colleges. This is a question on most of those applications. And if you have to say that you are suspended, you're going to be eliminated from the consideration. So you're destroying their prospects at a selected school. So without some more information, I would like to rescind the whole thing and just send them to detention. To me, I haven't received any information to justify suspension, which undermines their college prospects. To me, this is a serious concern that I need more information about.
Mr. Guarino?
Thank you, Madam President. I want to wish Mr. Gillis and Ms. Sweeney the best in the future. They're not here, they left. But I wish them well, and I want to thank them for putting up with all of us. And I also want to thank Ms. Timmons for working so well in collaboration with the Mayor's Office and the Police Athletic League for everything that you do with the Arlington Center. All of you together. I want to thank the police also and the fire and the Police Athletic League. They make Nashua a great place to live, to work, and to go to school. And last, I want to be brief. I'm looking forward tomorrow to going to New Searles School. We were invited to read to the students there, and I want to thank the faculty for inviting me there, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Mr. Mosher? Mr. Mosher, do you have any comments?
Yes, I have a lot of things in my mind, and right now I'm thinking about what has been said in the last half hour about getting things done and getting information. And this has been going around and around in my head. And I said, how relevant is some of this information that is being asked for? Is it really necessary? Why do we have so many requests for information when so much of the information is contained in the budget books? When we can ask a simple question and not have to go through this constant harangue with these people that keep putting in these requests and requests and requests and requests. And it's causing a lot of strife, and it costs a lot of money because it upsets the administration that they have to take off from what they're supposed to be doing, go and get these requests. And we have to send somebody on a special mission to deliver a packet with information on it. But if it's not relevant and is not necessary, why do it? We don't need to do that kind of thing. We have never in the past 12 years have I seen such outrageous, continuous requests from the same people for the same information over and over and over again. They're being redundant and asking more and more and more and more, and it's costing us a fortune. I think that it's time that we cut it out. We don't need all this information. If it's not relevant for some reason, something specific that's going to improve us, let's cut it out. This is unnecessary. And I think that what we should do is have the thing, if it's really necessary, put it in to get it on the agenda the right way. And the right way is not what has been happening. I really get upset when I keep hearing the same garbage over and over and over again. And all of these requests, I go over the list of requests and I find that one person has put in more than 30 requests just on that one form. And I think that's ridiculous when somebody else has put in 3 requests. If you have something that's really necessary, fine, but do it the right way, not just, can we get into new business? Well, if it's not new business, it's not new business. Put it into the committee. And let the chairman of the committee pass it on, and then let it go through the channels. You got to do it the right way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mosher. Ms. Van Twyver?
Thank you, Madam President. I was very pleased to see that the superintendent put out a message to the public about the last day of school, that we were going to have 180 days of school. I'm glad to see that. I hope that the parents will take notice of that and plan their lives accordingly. I don't want to see what happened last year about snow days ever happening again. Now, here are some things that I have requested that I have not gotten an answer to. Number one is way back when I asked for how much of each of the participants were putting in financially for summer school. Never got that information. I have asked for the SAS results. Haven't gotten that information. Those tests were given last March, and here it is December, and we have not had a report on it. I don't know why, but it has not been done. I've also asked for, as a committee chair, I asked for a discussion on the sign language course, and also for a discussion on
Cursive?
writing, and I haven't gotten that. In fact, I was overridden. Those things were bumped off the committee agenda that I wanted, and without my approval. And I could probably have a few other things that I can't think of right now because I'm so upset. But you know, it takes two to tango. And if we're going to work cooperatively, it has to work both ways. So I'm hoping that things will change in the new year, because we just can't go on like this anymore. You don't want to do what I asked for in my committee, then fine, you let me know that. You just don't go and change the agenda. Thank you.
Ms. Timmons?
I'd like to thank this the administration, Dr. Mosley, the NTU, and all our students and teachers for all the things that they do. I don't try to find things that's negative. I try to find things that's positive. If the information I request does not help the school or the administration or our students, I don't care. What I care is that our kids are happy, safe, and they represent our community. And I don't think that's the case of the board. I think some of us care about our children, but the children is why I'm here. I'm not here for my own personal agenda. I'm out here only for one reason only, and that's the children. And getting unnecessary information, because I see those requests, and I was like, what does that have to do with our children? What enhancement would that be for our children? What burden would that place on our administration? I find it very negative. And I'm not a negative person. This board tried to make you negative, but I'm not. I'm a very positive person. I like to be out there in the community helping, not hindering. And that's all I have to say.
Ms. Porter?
Just to give some balance to this whole thing, I know what these meetings look like, the full board meeting, but as a person who is serving on just about every committee, I can assure you that there is a lot of hard work going on for this school district that is not seen at this meeting. There is a lot going on, a lot of good things, and people working really hard. So let's just give some balance to this whole thing. The Board of Education is more than just this meeting.
Ms. Raymond?
Thank you. I just have a couple of things. One, I'm reflecting on Ms. Van Twyver's comments, and I find that very concerning that her agendas could potentially be changed. I mean, I believe that the committee work and chairing a committee is a big responsibility, but at the same time, it's your committee, and so agendas ought to be made in collaboration between what the school district needs, what's timely, and also what the chair feels is important and timely. And so I certainly hope moving forward that everyone shares that understanding so that people don't have that experience. I wanted to just mention that if anybody is still looking to do some holiday giving or service to the community. The Bridges Domestic Violence Shelter and Services still has 9 children who are in need of someone to adopt them for the holiday, for Christmas gifts and clothing and such. Their moms who are working with the Domestic Violence Services have people to adopt them if Bridges can find people to adopt the children. And again, if you contact Bridges, you can just Google them and all their contact information will come up. But if you contact Bridges, they'll let you know what the lists look like and what they're looking for. So, thank you.
Okay. I would just like to thank Haley and Patrick for their service on the board. And I also would like to say something about the suspensions here at North. I think the administration did the right thing. To have a fight going on and students clamoring to get there and not have administrators be able to get through and separate the fighting and the police or the RSO, I think is a problem. That's not what most people would want to do, is to be involved as a bystander. You become involved in it. You're part of the what's going on, and it makes it much harder for our administrators to address the issue, separate the students that are fighting. So I support them. If we had students that were disobeying the administrator saying, no, you need to go back in the cafeteria, then, you know, that is not, that wouldn't be good if they just let it go. So I support our administrators under the circumstances from everything I read. And I thought Dr. Mosley had a very good letter written to everybody concerning the situation. So, okay, I'm looking for a motion to go into non-public for a safety reason, which I think is under I.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion to,
Wait, Mr. Kaufman.
Can we have a brief recess after we vote, please?
It's getting late, but 2 or 3 minutes, can you hurry?
I'm doing my
Thank you.
best.
Yep.
okay. On the motion to go into non-public, Mr. Mosher? Mrs. Oden?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0. We will be in non-public at the end of our